For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on a new Minister of Finance? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, an earthquake's shockwaves can be a wake-up call for humanity to pay attention to our planet's health. And this one is from Jane Goodall.
Very interesting. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning.
The main watch will be back after this break.
Every Saturday, 7 p.m. to midnight on Love 101, you're invited to travel in time with music at its best. It's the Gospel Music Machine with the Gospel Music Master, Nigel Wilkinson. From your favorite choir music to Christian contemporary songs to touch the soul and keep you rocking, a touch of reggae and the Caribbean feel. It's all here inside
Gospel Music Machine, Nigel Wilkinson.
Nigel, play the tune. Yep, the Gospel Music Master is still playing the tunes down alone. It's the Gospel Music Machine with Nigel Wilkinson, and he's definitely your music master.
It's Nigel Wilkinson and the music on the Gospel Music Machine.
Saturdays, 7 p.m. to midnight. You won't regret the link. It's on the family station, Love 101.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. August 27, packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing Menticize Summer School Edition. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock as we ring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we hear the powerful testimony of Michelle Steer, who experienced God's healing and transforming power. You can't afford to miss it. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for another life transforming journey. All the summer will come alive, 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. August 27 with yours truly, Sarah Ann, the Choppy One on the family station, Love 101.
The summer break is almost over and we are going back to campus. Can you believe it's time for school already? Wow! The start of a new school year is fast approaching and you are invited to our Campus Connection Back to School Preparation Show. We will be praying, offering words of encouragement, and sharing tips to our students, parents, administrators, and other stakeholders. If you want to know how to get ready for the 2024 to 2025 academic school year, don't miss Campus Connection this Tuesday. Join us with special guests, Mrs. Sherna Calvin from Youth for Christ, Mrs. Melrose Reddy Stewart, Christian Teachers in Action, Jaquan Graham from UTech Jamaica, and Gabriel Thompson from GC Foster College of Physical Education and Sports. We'll also have some Passion and Purity reps, some ICF reps, and so much more. It's all happening Tuesday, August 27 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Now, let's discuss those verses that speak about faith and works. Verses that may have you a little bit confused. Verses like James 2 verse 17 that says, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. And Ephesians 2, 8-9, for by grace have you been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no man may boast. What other verses need discussion? To find out, listen to The Rock, Tuesday, August 27, as guests Roland Gill and Reverend Christopher Broadber discuss the topic Faith and Works. That's The Walk, Tuesday, August 27 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll focus on Manifest 819, youth being activated to take the mantle of leadership in the church. The church is for edifying believers, nurturing and building them up to mature in Christ. Is Kingdom Youth Entrepreneurship an effective way to reach and develop our youth? How do we attract and grow more of our men to become mentors and leaders in the church? You are invited to join the conversation with Pastor Kevin Allen and Dr. Daniel Thomas on Wednesday, August 28th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. The mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fostridge Company Limited. The mailbox, Monday!
It's time to fill your cup with a blend of hope and inspiration. Join me, Nadine Blair, weekdays, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Morning Express, your mid-morning sanctuary on Love 101. We'll take you through carefully chosen music to soothe your soul, with thoughtful words to uplift your spirit, programs and features for growth and upliftment. Tune in and be encouraged. Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Morning Express with Nadine Blair, right here on your family station, Love 101. We will take the Morning Express. The Morning Express. Oh, yes. Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clark, will be leaving government for the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. It is indicated that he has turned the country around and done wonders for the economy in relation to his portfolio. He has been described as one of the best minds to occupy that post. We have as guests this morning to have a discussion about what can be described as a historic move by Dr. Clark. President of the National Democratic Movement, Peter Townsend, and social and political commentator, Kevin O'Brien. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Well, first of all, how will the country turbans on one of the, not sure which one it might be, hoping because it was a bit of a challenge for persons who are listening, whether on the radio or via the internet. I think we have managed to I think we have addressed that somewhat. How might the country manage without Dr. Clark? Of course, no one is indispensable, but it was indicated that he has done a really great job, and replacing persons who are doing very well in a post can sometimes be a challenge. Kevin O'Brien?
Well, it's not like Jamaica's falling apart before Nigel Clark came, you know. Audley Shaw was there, and he was considered to have been doing a pretty good job. Um, it, it will be admitted that Dr. Clark should have turned it up a notch, judging by the plaudits had gotten from internationally. You know, we've never seen Jamaica or Jamaican finance minister get such plaudits from, you know, obviously the IMF, the World Bank, the Financial Times. Many articles have been written about the Jamaican miracle. And certainly, when the IMF reaches out and says you want to be the second most senior position at the IMF, the managing director is number one, the deputy is number two. Clearly, they think Dr. Clark has done a great job. And I must say this, you know, there's been a lot of talk about corruption. Opposition saying the most corrupt government ever, this and that, as politics people will do, oppositions. But had there been any question from the IMF about this being a corrupt regime, there is no way they would have reached out to Dr. Clark like this. And I think that is one of the things, as somebody said, it's not they watch what you're doing, but also what you're not doing. And I think this should show people that anybody listening, anybody with ears, that this is a mark of excellence, not just for Dr. Clark alone. Remember, Dr. Clark was appointed by the Prime Minister. He works within a cabinet and an administration. And the IMF could not have said, you've done a very good job if the administration itself was not seen as doing well also. It's not just applauded for Dr. Clark. It is for Jamaica overall. Yeah, he's a Jamaican. I mean, and you have to be very proud of him. Black royalty, as somebody once said. But it's also a mark of, kudos for the administration itself. And I think that aspect about the corruption, a lot of people who have been talking a lot should take note and said, hold on, if this government was so corrupt, how could IMF make the corrupt finance minister deputy? It's a very good look for Jamaica overall and the administration and for Dr. Clark. And I think anyone who's not proud of this Jamaican and a black Jamaican, I make that point because Jamaica is a 90% black country. I don't know what they want for this country. You couldn't want good for the country if you can't say this is a magnificent program for Jamaica that look, wow. And remember, the IMF is when I say this controversially, is a white man thing. It's been the EU and the Americans who have dominated the IMF and the World Bank, all these big things. For a Jamaican and a black Jamaican to become the second most powerful person, and who knows what down the road might happen, is a signal of things are changing. And Jamaica is, as so often we are,
Mr. O'Brien,
in the forefront of this change.
Mr. O'Brien,
Okay.
only because of time, and we haven't brought in Peter Townsend as yet, we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Deworm you and your family twice a year with Pharma Wormel. Available at pharmacies island-wide. The time by Pharma Wormel is 7:15 a.m.
Keep your family in peak condition. Pharma Wormel suspension. Just one dose. It's an easy decision. Pharma Wormel suspension.
Protect your family from intestinal worms with Pharma Wormel. Get the entire household to peak condition just in time for back to school. With just a single dose, Pharma Wormel effectively eliminates worm infestations in all stages, making it the hassle-free solution for both kids and adults.
Just one dose is an easy decision. Pharma Wormel suspension.
Choose Pharma Wormel for your entire family. Distributed by Master Distribution.
Remember every dream that you have, remember everything that you plan. With JL Bank, anything possible. With a little savings in your hand. Sales for your plan, build me house, buy the land, walk clothes and do like a plan. Sales for your plan.
Living your best life and making memories is priceless, but saving little by little is what makes it affordable. Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank, we help you find a way. To my amazing son on his wedding day, my heart is full of joy for you. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and a house full of love. Oh, and some kids would be nice. Your mommy will be the kindest, loveliest granny there ever was. Love always, Daddy. I promised him I'd read this to you one day, and here we are.
Thanks, Mommy. Your love lives on with life insurance from Sagicor. Talk to an advisor today.
Please are killing me. Need a product that can cool down your house and reduce your light bill this summer? Introducing Lanker Cool Guard Paint. Yes, Lanker Cool Guard Paint uses Thermaflex technology, a tiny insulating microsphere that expands as the outside temperature of the coating rises. This blocks heat from penetrating the surface, reducing over 80% of all that heat inside your house. Feel cooler inside this summer. Ask for Lanker Cool Guard Paint for a cooler space.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. The topic is changing the guard in the Ministry of Finance, Jamaica. Our guests are Peter Townsend, President of the National Democratic Movement, and Kevin O'Brien Chang, social and political commentator. Mr. O'Brien Chang, just before the break, you were responding to the question in relation to how will the country manage without Dr. Clark. You made a number of comments to include that it must be a testament to the success of Jamaica that Dr. Clark himself as an individual was selected. Mr. O'Brien Chang, were you quite through? Mr. O'Brien Chang, are you muted, sir? I think you might be muted. If you can unmute, that might help. Whilst we await...
Me?
Mr. O'Brien Chang, yes. Were you quite through with your comments?
Well, as for the how can the country manage? Charles de Gaulle had a famous quote: "The cemetery is full of indispensable men." I made the point that Jamaica was doing pretty well financially before Nigel Clark. Ardell Shaw was considered doing a good job. Dr. Clark has taken it up a notch, and I'm sure his replacement will do a good job too. Hopefully. Well, I can't be sure, but hopefully for the country's sake. And if you look at the current cabinet, the ministers for who has the financial qualifications and stuff, Fayval Williams comes to mind. Just on her resume, she has a MBA from Wharton and a BA cum laude magna from Harvard. She's worked in a lot of investment banks and financial institutions. She was an assistant deputy minister in finance ministry. She would seem to have a lot of qualifications. Obviously, it's Andrew Holness's decision, but she's the person I would think that comes to mind as the most obvious. Although, of course, Mr. Holness might go outside private sector. Who knows? He's the prime minister, not me. I'm only speaking about the current cabinet and who seems to have the best financial qualifications.
Understood, Mr. Brian Chang. Thank you so much. Peter Townsend, President of the National Democratic Movement. What are your thoughts? What are the thoughts of your movement, if you care to share any thoughts that the movement may have? And we do apologize again to our guests and to those listening for what appears to be a disturbance on the line from time to time. We are trying to have that matter or that issue resolved. Peter Townsend, your thoughts?
Thank you. In as much as we have differences with Dr. Clark, and particularly how the public sector reclassification and salary issue was handled, with politicians giving themselves the most massive salary increase in the history of the country. I wish to congratulate Dr. Clark and his ascendancy to be the second in line with the top of the International Monetary Fund. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal for someone from developing or third world country to ascend to that level. It is a big deal. Particularly somebody like Dr. Clark, somebody of African descent, somebody who, in as much as he has had a lot of international experience and regional experience in the financial world, and, in the private sector, he goes from this position from being the Minister of Finance for a third world country. It speaks a lot to the quality of the work that he has done. That must have to the IMF to him, and I believe that it's a plus for small developing countries like Jamaica that somebody is other, and I believe that it will be done to the benefit of developing countries and the world at large. And I'm very proud of him, and for such a distinction. In terms of the way forward, as Kevin said, we had the finance ministers start with Andy Shaw, who brought the to Jamaica after it was PJ policy said Tata in the early 2000s, and took us back to a path of fiscal discipline to some extent. He didn't quite achieve goal, but it Phillips took it to another level, and then Clark ascended it to yet another level. A level which we have seen the fiscal responsibility to another level, while at the same time maintaining certain amount of social services, getting Jamaica through COVID, a very difficult, we fear than many other nations. And one thing I must commend him for is the fact that we have had 6 consecutive years, 6 consecutive budget presentations in which we have had no increase in taxes, which is very high. We have never seen the history of Jamaica. In terms of the way forward, I believe that there are enough competent persons in the island who.
I'm sorry, Mr. Townsend. Sometimes depending on, sometimes there's a slight challenge hearing you. Mr. Townsend?
Yes, are you hearing me?
Yes, I think we're hearing you better now. Go ahead.
Right. So I'm saying to way forward, I believe the government would have a succession plan in place. It would be remiss of me if it didn't have a succession plan in place for any portfolio, any ministerial portfolio. And I believe that from a cursory glance of those persons who are available in the pool of the cabinet, I believe that there are competent persons who would be able to follow the template that has been laid down by Dr. Clark. If he's worth his salt, he would have laid certain foundations that those who will come after to use a track to continue to build on. So I'm optimistic about the future, and that we'll have, and do pray and hope that we'll have a good successor to that. Although to be a tough act to follow, but I believe that there are people around who are in a position to do that.
Ministers of finance typically, I suppose, when they are carrying out their jobs, their tasks, they deal with matters at a particular level, and that is needed. But oftentimes some persons in the society, depending on where they are, they may not necessarily be feeling the growth that the numbers say exist. Any comments on that, Mr. Townsend? Because not to take away from anything that Dr. Clark has done, but some persons listening to us might say, you can all be there talking, but I'm not seeing any difference really on my dinner table, so to speak, or in terms of what I receive at the end of the week or at the end of a fortnight or the end of the month as take-home pay. That sort of comment from such persons, from citizens listening, some persons listening. Mr. Townsend? Mr. Brian Chang, it seems as if we have lost Mr. Townsend. Mr. Brian Chang?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, there's a famous saying that 20% of people are going to be against everything all the time, right? And Jamaica's always been a tough country. Let's face it, Jamaica's never been rich. It's not like we're coming from a rich background where everybody was happy, everybody belly was full, everybody had everything they wanted. Context is critical, right? And you look at the single biggest, let's go from 2016 then, right? This administration, including Mr. Shaw and Mr. Clark, Dr. Clark, the single biggest change we have seen, unemployment was up 10-15% range. It's now 4%. The lowest unemployment in the history of Jamaica, by far, by far. And you talk about people at the dinner table. Well, if you have a job, you can eat. Formerly, a lot of people didn't have jobs. They couldn't eat, right? So you got to say that's an unquestionable fact on the ground that unemployment has plunged. Second thing, the second irrefutable fact is the debt to GDP ratio was about 150%. It's now 70%. One of the largest drops in the history of the world, right? These are unquestionable facts. So people that say it's all talk and all that, the numbers are there. You can't refute them.
No. We know the numbers are. We know the numbers.
The minimum wage is the highest in real terms in the history of Jamaica. The minimum wage. Dr. Damian King has posted on that, and people have seen it again, right? The highest minimum wage in the history of the country. Now, if people are going to say nothing not go on, well, how can nothing not go on when you have lowest unemployment ever, the debt to GDP ratio is cut in half, and you have the highest real minimum wage ever? The facts are there. So not everybody's going to be happy, not everybody's rolling. Jamaica's always been a top country, but the big indices, never in the history of Jamaica have all the indices been as positive as they are now overall. We hear about back in the 60s when you had 10% growth and all that. Unemployment was 20-something%.
Mr. You know,
so the people are about the golden pass. This, in terms of financial management, this is the best Jamaica has ever had it in its history, unequivocally. Anybody who looks at the numbers cannot argue. And the IMF has signaled, we think you guys have done a great job, so great a job. We want your guy to come make us our number two. Mr. Number one down the road.
I just want to bring back in Mr. Townsend. I gather he's not back on the line. We heard it out, Mr. Branchang. Thank you so much for it. Mr. Townsend, any response or any reaction before we close?
Yeah, just to say that you had a question earlier regarding people in the economy not feeling the prosperity, as they call it. Yes, you'll find any economy where you have a sort of a trickle-down policy economic model where it doesn't reach everybody at the bottom, and certainly not overnight. It's a long process. We have come a long way, I must say. Even though I'm critical for a lot of the government's policies, I believe that the attaining and sustaining fiscal discipline will in the long run redound to the benefit of the common man, and it will take time, but I believe that if we stay on this path and we continue to build the nation, we will be able to achieve a whole lot. Just in closing, again, congratulate Dr. Clark and
have to
get into the position that he is now poised to
Jamaica definitely congratulates Dr. Clark for his ascendancy to that post, but we are totally and completely out of time. I am getting a signal that we need to wrap this segment. I want to thank both you gentlemen, Peter Townsend and Kevin O'Brien Chang, for being guests with us in this first watch. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time and for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
The morning watch will be right back after this break.
The time by Jam Bank is
7:31.
Experience unmatched performance and ultimate control with KYB Shocks from Birds Auto Parts. KYB shocks are perfect for every ride. Choose from a wide range of shocks such as Gas Adjust, Scorch Force, and XLG, which provides superior handling and stability on all terrain for a smoother, safer, and more reliable drive. Choose KYB. 15% off your purchase of 2 or more KYB.
Mommy work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 joint bank savings plan. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Stop
wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way. Get better paying jobs overseas and locally with City and Guilds International Skills Certificates at IIRQ Academy. In 2 to 3 months, get qualified in welding, fabrication, and pipework, carpentry, construction, painting and decoration, and plant maintenance. No subjects required, no age limits, no entrance test. Register this week and get 2 subjects for free. Online face-to-face evening and Saturday classes begin very soon. Starting soon at IIRQ, 9 to 18 months, advanced diplomas and associate degrees in motor vehicle repairs, electrical and electronic engineering, and logistics supply chain management. Call us at 876-322-4029. Visit us at 32 Hope Road, Kingston, 1 Perry Road, Montego Bay. I am so happy for back to school. Oh wow, getting back to a quiet house comes at a price, right? No one knows how to easy walk from back to school. With a $15,000 gift card, I have taken care of your back to school expenses and a free school bag. Get this out to care themselves, right? Back to school.
Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in Loop Jamaican News Online, Jamaica's Dr. Nigel Clark appointed Deputy Managing Director of IMF, set to step down as Minister of Finance. We have here in the Jamaica Observer, Favour the Favorite. Education Minister tipped to replace Nigel Clark at Finance Ministry. We move on to the Gleaner. There is a headline here. Underneath the headline is a photograph of the Minister of Education, Favour Williams. Education Ministry redoubling efforts to curb violence in schools. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on the new Minister of Finance? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Happy be a man, got to be a man.
On the next episode of the Mailbox, we'll focus on
gift of God, not a result of works, so that no boast. What other verses need discussion? To find out, listen to The Rock, Tuesday, August 27, as guests Roland Gill and Reverend Christopher Broadberg discuss the topic Faith and Works. That's The Rock, Tuesday, August 27 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
The summer break is almost over and we are going. ICF reps, and so much more. It's all happening Tuesday, August 27 at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now to see what our friends in the social media land space, Facebook and WhatsApp, how they have responded to today's question. What are your thoughts on a new Minister of Finance, Jukal?
All right, so this person here said Hyacinth Daily says IMF has to make sure this man is real and tries to study him for their interests and knowledge. She says, nevertheless, congratulations are still in order. Mr. Clark's good works is not being felt within society with respect. All right, this next one says here, this is from Edna in Montego Bay. Let me hear from her.
Good morning, Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. My take on the new finance minister is whether we like it or not, there got to be a new one because the present one is outgoing. However, I hope whoever is chosen, it will be the right choice. As I heard going on in certain news, people are discussing it, who is going to be. Some are voting for Favor Williams, and some is saying that even the Prime Minister might take up that post as a previous Prime Minister did a couple years ago. So I only hope that whoever take it up, it will be betterment for the country. Yeah, that is my thought on it right now.
All right, thank you, Edna. Cherry in Spanish Town says that changes are a must. I'm quite sure this person was prepared and trained for the post. It wasn't an overnight washover. It was well thought through. And this final one is from Monica. Monica says it's neither here nor there where I'm concerned. The critical issue is corruption with its many lawyers, greed, criminality, moral decay, unaccountability, poor governance, etc. Deal with that. And that's the end of our responses.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting comments. Thank you for those comments. Well, we continue with the morning watch. In fact, we are now in the second watch and we are changing gears somewhat. We're looking now at earthquakes. Earthquakes, we seem to be having a little bit more of them in recent times, and it has caused some jitters amongst many persons on this island of Jamaica. You have geologists who are looking at these things from, clearly a geological perspective. And you have others, such as prophets and laymen, who have been predicting that an earthquake or more earthquakes will come as we come closer to a particular milestone on the spiritual calendar. Now, the reasons why we have earthquakes or don't have earthquakes, or why we don't have very big ones, while we always have smaller ones. That is always a topic for discussion, but sometimes many persons are anticipating the big one. And we are here this morning to have a discussion about whether or not there's a big one coming. And from a religious perspective, some persons will say, well, it's time to repent, time to get my spiritual house in order. And some will even ask, can we pray away an earthquake? Similar to how we can pray that a hurricane will divert and go elsewhere from Jamaica. We have online this morning to have this very interesting, varied discussion on this topic of earthquakes. Professor Simon Mitchell, Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the University of West Indies, Mona. And we have Reverend Prophet Mark Stewart, Founder, Bishop, Jamaica Restoration Breakthrough Prayer Healing Deliverance Ministries. Reverend Prophet Mark Stewart, Professor Simon Mitchell, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. More grace, blessings.
I found it interesting to have a geologist and a prophet on the same program discussing earthquakes.
Wow.
You know, someone who is religious, spiritual, and someone who is operating, I assume, in the more temporal space, Professor Mitchell.
Very scientific.
I just thought it was very interesting having both of you on the same program. Now, you know, are we more afraid of earthquakes, or are we needing to just be more alert? How prepared are we for earthquakes? And particularly for you, Professor Simon Mitchell, you know, you can have earthquakes, I gather, which are just purely natural, but then I gather you can have earthquakes as well, which are the result of what people do to the earth. Maybe they're doing a lot of mining, or you know, they're doing various things that can cause the earth to shift. Professor Mitchell,
I mean, there are a number of earthquakes that happen, but which we are involved with. Old mines, for instance, can collapse, and that gives rise to effectively what feels like an earthquake. But the other thing that we do, of course, is we've sort of moved into this idea of what we call fracking, where we pump water down into the earth to try and release methane, natural gas, and you know, it's a hydrocarbon. But the trouble is, in doing that, what we do is we weaken the actual faults, and we actually make more earthquakes. So in places we can actually increase the likelihood and cause earthquakes. And there's a number of countries now that have banned this idea of fracking, this process of fracking,
before you go on, because this is also an educational space for persons listening, you can have mining projects, dam building, fracking, which you just mentioned, and even nuclear explosions, Professor Mitchell?
Well, the other thing is nuclear explosions can be picked up. And I mean, one of the things that the earthquake unit does as well is monitor for nuclear explosions. Okay. And you can distinguish those. An explosion can be distinguished from an earthquake, because an explosion goes out the same way in every direction, whereas an earthquake doesn't.
Professor Mitchell,
so you can actually, from the waves that you record,
Professor
you can tell whether it's...
I know I'm intervening, my humble apologies, but only because of time. I gather that we are already upon a break, and we haven't even brought in Prophet Mark Stewart yet. Prophet Bishop Mark Stewart. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Great sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, better the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
Great sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:45.
Ever hot, ever juicy. Ever hot, ever juicy. Honey fresh, flaky, crust, make it fresh, flaky, crust, make it juicy. Make it flavor out in the open family. Hot, fresh, with a breakfast, my lunch. Lean juicy, whatever you feel. Honey fresh, flaky, crust, make it fresh, flaky, crust, make it fresh. Juicy crackers, quality food every time. And I'm like juicy locations all the while.
Ready, set, go! Race now to Singer to get golden deals on appliances, electronics, and furniture. Be a part of the action with LG 4K Ultra High Definition televisions. Get a free microwave with the purchase of an electric stove. Stay cool with inverter ACs now at the lowest prices this summer. Get freezers starting as low as $39,995. Only Singer has 120 days for cash and 9 months no interest. Shop today for unbeatable credit. Conditions apply.
Gear up the schoolers! July 15th to September 14th, Bashka's amazing back-to-school deals just for you. Buy a case of books and receive a box of pencils and pens. Don't miss special discounts on computer tables and chairs starting August 1st. That's not all! 2 lucky winners will receive a Samsung tablet or a $30,000 back-to-school shopping spree. Follow us on all socials at Bashka Jamaica for more information. Visit Bashka today and gear up the schoolers. Bashka, the store that gives you more.
To my amazing son on his wedding day, my heart is full of joy for you. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and a house full of love. Oh, and some kids would be nice. Your mommy will be the kindest, loveliest granny there ever was. Love always, Daddy. I promised him I'd read this to you one day, and here we are.
Thanks, Mommy. Your love lives on with life insurance from Sagicor. Talk to an advisor today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. The topic is predicting earthquakes. Predicting earthquakes. Our guests are Professor Simon Mitchell, Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the University of the West Indies, Mona, and Reverend Prophet Mark Stewart, founder of Bishop Jamaica Restoration Breakthrough Prayer Healing Deliverance Ministries. Professor Mitchell, just before the break, you were outlining to us some of the man-made ways that earthquakes can occur. You mentioned fracking. I raised a couple other issues such as nuclear explosions, which you began to comment on, and of course you can have mining, etc. Would you like to finish that thought? And Professor Mitchell, when are we going to expect the big one that some people say we are to expect? But continue your answer, Professor Mitchell. Professor Mitchell.
Unfortunately, I can't. All I can say is that at the present point in time, and since we had the relatively large one, the 5.6 in October of 23, we've had more earthquakes per month, about 23 per month at the moment. Whereas before that, we only had about 13. So we're actually seeing more small earthquakes happening.
And any reason for that, Professor Mitchell, that you can posit?
I think what's happened is the big one has upset a lot of the actual forts around Jamaica. And they are all adjusting to the fact that we had that 5.6. Now, my concern is that this adjustment might lead to the stress being put onto a big fort, like the South Coast Fort, and that moves. Now, I can't say that that will definitely happen, but I think that we have to recognize that it's a possibility, but at some point in the future, we will have a big one. There's no doubt about it.
Professor Mitchell, some persons say you can't predict earthquakes. Some say that you can sort of, as it were, have some reasonable probability at about a certain time when one might occur. Any comments or thoughts, sir?
Well, there is a natural return period for a certain big earthquake, but the simple fact is that, if it's 100 years, well, maybe it's exactly 100 years, but it could be as little as 10 years, and then it could be as long as 200 or 300 years, so it's very difficult. I mean, if you look up in, I think it is in Tibet, where we had 2 very big earthquakes almost simultaneously, just a few weeks apart, and we saw the same thing down in Turkey as well. So I don't think you can necessarily say that you're going to get them regularly, but we know that if you average it out, you would actually be able to say, okay, they're once every 200 years or whatever, or 100 years or whatever it happens to be. But the trouble, of course, is we only have a historical record in Jamaica that goes back 500 years or so.
Professor Mitchell, before we bring in Reverend Prophet Mark Stewart, some persons will wonder, especially in a country like Jamaica where you have various types of buildings. You have some which are 1 story. You have some which are 2, 3 stories. So you have lots of apartments and other buildings going up now, 6 stories, and even higher than that. And some persons might wonder if there are enough 3-story, 4-story, 5-story, 6-story building, will the building come pancaking down on me if I'm on the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor? Do I need to run outside? If I'm on a staircase, will I be in a more vulnerable position? People have all sorts of questions. If I'm out on a football field, will it even matter? Will the earth open up on me?
Oh, it does actually matter, yes. I think the truth of the matter is that how a building will actually react, we can actually work it out. We can actually put monitors on and find out this. And that's one of the things that the earthquake unit wants to go forward and actually do, is to look at some of these high rises that are being built and see how safe they are in terms of, if an earthquake was to actually happen tomorrow, how would that building react? And we can actually do that sort of thing. That is a possibility. And I think it should be done for all these big high rises. For people themselves, you want to try and protect yourself. And the most important part is your head and your heart, if you like. Those are the bits. If you break an arm, you break an arm. But if something falls in your head, you're going to be dead. So you really want to protect those parts. And so that's why we say go under a table, a wooden table, or get into a door jamb, below a door jamb where that door jamb is a good door jamb. When you go into a place, just look around and think about, well, how do I get out again? How do I easily get out? And those are important sort of things to think about. If you can get out, get out. If not, get into somewhere that's as safe as possible. And you mentioned a football pitch. Well, one of the strange things is that when an earthquake actually happens, the rocks, the ground, doesn't behave how you would expect the ground to behave. It can actually form waves, as though you're at the sea and you're seeing waves coming in, and the actual ground can do that. You can get rolling of the ground.
Yeah.
So if you're out on a football pitch and you start feeling shaking, the best thing to do is actually lie down.
Oh, okay.
So you actually lie down, because then if you're thrown up in the air from one of these waves, you're not going to fall and break an arm, or less likely to do so if you're lying on the ground.
Yeah. Understood. Very interesting. And what about the concept or the issue of liquefaction? I've heard of that too.
Well, that happens, and that again, it's dependent on the nature of the ground. So generally, that happens in grounds that are waterlogged. So if you're close to the sea,
is that what happened? Is that what happened in Port Royal? That's
what happened in Port Royal. But also in Port Royal, there was a landslide as well. So there was the land collapsed into the sea, as well as there being liquefaction. And the 1907 earthquake in Kingston, there was a lot of liquefaction. And the sort of downtown Kingston is the area which is wet, and you might expect to see liquefaction there.
Tell us what liquefaction is.
Well, what happens is basically the shaking basically turns the alluvial gravels, the sands and the muds and things like that, effectively makes them act like a liquid. So because of the shaking, you act like a liquid, and we know what happens in a liquid. You lose strength and things sink into it. So buildings will sink, will subside into it. And of course, the classic example is Giddy House, which many people will know and have been to.
Thank you so much, Professor Mitchell. Bishop, Prophet, you heard the scientist.
Yeah.
We are now turning to the minister of the gospel.
Yes, sir.
What are your comments and your thoughts, sir? Please forgive us as well, too, because Professor Mitchell, there was so much for him to unpack.
Well, we need to know. We need to have that information, and I appreciate him because of all the information that he has been enabling us to have in Jamaica over the years, and we appreciate his expertise and all. You know, I'm in Canada now. Last night I had a vision of an earthquake. I was at home in Jamaica, in Mandeville, and I had another vision again of an earthquake shaking the island. And this one was as if, you know, the earthquake shakes and then it stops in short time. This one was going. And as Professor talks about the waves, it was like the waves. And as I ride the waves, I was preparing for the next wave. Because I was saying to myself, this don't look like it's stopping. And it's like you feel the other wave coming. And it was waves upon waves. And it was a long, it was not one of them short one. It was long. And I'm saying, why? This one not stopping. And that was just last night. I had a vision I was in Clarendon and leaving the church, heading onto the highway. And when I looked over, I said, what is that? I saw waves coming, the tsunami waves coming over. And it was coming over on the east side. And I said, listen, but I'm going to try to see if I can get to Mandeville. And then I said, no, because this thing is going to come. So I said, people, there's some folks in the vehicle. And I said, no, let's go back over the church, park the vehicle and jump on the church top, the highest point. But this thing seems dangerous. And that's what we did. I was in Trelawney some months ago and I was at my mother and I dreamt that the meteorologist, Dr. Evan Thompson, was saying, listen, like I heard him clearly saying, everybody get to high ground. And when I look over the sea, I saw one of the huge tsunamis coming towards the island, and that was in Trelawney. But that's 3 visions in a few months, in some months, being a minister in Jamaica. So when I speak prophetically that there is going to be, the scientists tell you there's a likelihood, whatever the time, we see the signs, we see them happening frequently. There is I don't know how we can prepare. We prepare for hurricane. I don't know how we can prepare for an earthquake, but all I know is one is coming, it's coming big, and a lot of things is gonna happen. It is what we're seeing. Jesus, said it in Matthew 24, verse 8. He said, there's gonna be earthquakes in diverse places in the end time.
Bishop.
And it's something biblically that we expect and we're looking for.
Bishop Prophet.
Yes.
A vision, can it also be a warning? Is it a warning?
It is a warning. It is a warning. And I have been warning. I have been telling the country these visions of the tsunami. I've been preaching it. I've been warning. And as we see the earthquakes getting frequent, we know the warning is coming sooner than we think. We know we are warning. Imagine, I am coming on here this morning on this program, and last night, I'm all the way in Canada, and I'm having a vision of a long earthquake in Jamaica, in Mandeville. What is this saying? And I'm not joking. I'm telling you, last night I dreamt an earthquake that was so long, it was just like the wave. And funny enough, as the professor says, it's like a wave, the wave coming. And it's like I'm seeing the waves and I'm feeling the waves coming, and I'm saying, but this is supposed to be finished. Earthquake doesn't take this long, but it just keep happening. And I'm saying, well, and I'm hearing the people.
So Prophet, only because of time.
Yes.
It's an indication that we should pray for mercy then, and
we should pray for mercy. We should repent.
And we should be praying against it from happening.
We can't pray against it happening. It will happen. It's going to happen. It's not as if we can get up tomorrow and just pray it away. Like Jamaicans love to think that when things are going to happen, we just pray and it just go away. These things are happening. We couldn't pray away the ones that happened.
In the vision you got, it definitely happened.
It happened. It's
going
to happen.
So what you're saying is that we should pray for mercy.
We should pray for mercy. Pray that God will not let the righteous go down with the wicked. Pray that everyone will be saved. Pray that people will be spared. Pray that God will have mercy on Jamaica, and it's time to come together and stop planning for cartel and start planning for revival, because something is going to happen that's going to shake the nation, that no government, no DJ, nobody's going to be able to save us but Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And it's very serious, and Jamaicans need to take it serious and need to prepare themselves for this end time prophetic release that is about to occur in Jamaica.
Only because of time, we have to end at this point. Professor Mitchell, Bishop Stewart, I want to thank you both for your time and for your thoughts this morning on the Morning Watch. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to the family station. Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing back Love in the Morning with Chukal.
At the Ministry of Health and Wellness,